And welcome back to our In Focus discussion tonight. It's on suicide awareness and prevention. Now, advocates say suicide rates are the highest in the springtime, and this past weekend, more than 100 people, they could be seen walking from Tooele all the way to West Wendover, and it's all in the name of suicide prevention and awareness. We have folks joining us tonight to talk about the longest suicide awareness walk in the country and the foundation behind it. We have Jon and Tracy Gossett and Ed and Barbara Hansen with the Life's Worth Living Foundation. So from the bottom of my heart and everyone here on the crew, thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Jon, take us back to 2014 when you started Life's Worth Living Foundation. I guess, what inspired you? Let's start there. What inspired you to create the organization?
Well, we ended up having multiple suicides, and two of them were people that we were familiar with and friends with, and they died 2 days apart. And so we went ahead and felt like maybe we could be part of the solution and try to make a difference where we lived. So we started the foundation in February of 2014, and it's just grown from there.
Thanks, Jon. And Ed and Barbara, your family was one of the 3 local families who lost a loved one to suicide that year. So at your own comfort level, what can you share with us about that tragedy?
You know, it's amazing to be here. I never dreamed that we would be talking about suicide. Our son, when he was 26 years old, took his life. Wonderful person. I never imagined in a million years. He was a great daddy. He made everyone laugh and smile. He took good care of his little family, and then he was working late and he started taking prescription drugs. And from that, of course, it went to heroin, and he was doing things he didn't like, and I think he really felt like he was hurting his family a lot, and I think that's what made him do that. What do you think, babe?
Well, and you know, there's just a lot of things were dragging him down at that time, and he felt like he was hurting all of us and his family and everybody, and so, you know, I think he just felt like that he didn't want to be here, and even though that affected us greatly, that with him gone and his family and changed our lives.
Yeah, well, life's worth living. I mean, Tracy, what are some of the objectives of your organization? It's called Life's Worth Living Foundation. Obviously, you're trying to help, and we'd love to hear more about it.
Well, when we started this out, we wanted a threefold mission, and one of them was to raise awareness to suicide, to educate and prevent suicides. And we started a support group at our local hospital because we didn't have any out there in Tooele, and that's we've done that. And we have an LGBTQ support group, and we've just are trying to get the as much support for the people that need the support that we're here for them.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great work, and Jon, we're in springtime. We mentioned earlier that this is statistically the worst time of year. What are some of the data or stats that we knew about back in 2014, right? You started this in 2014. Talk about the numbers then, and what changes have we seen?
Well, you know, in 2014, in February of 2014, we had a rough year. It was one of the worst in recent history. And you know, we have 29 counties in Utah, and at the time we were ranked 4th in the state for suicide, so very high. And since that time, we've dropped from 4th to 21st, so we've dropped 17 places in Tooele County. The state of Utah's dropped from 5th to 6th in the nation, so we're kind of moving in the right direction, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we all work together so well in Tooele County as we partner with our community partners at Tooele County School District, Tooele County Health Department, the communities that care. We're all kind of making that general push to, you know, solve this problem that we're dealing with.
Well, obviously it is a problem. So Barb, I know in the news rooms that I've worked in, you talk about different terms, right? Sometimes folks say died by suicide. Sometimes we have discussions about should we report on suicide. We're trying to be ethically responsible about it because you do hear research that perhaps by reporting on it, maybe it gives people ideas. And so we're all humans trying to do the best we can on reporting the news. I wonder from your perspective, are there stigmas or barriers or challenges from where you sit that exist in the fight against suicide?
Yes, definitely. I think that we don't dare say the word. We don't dare ask because we are afraid that if we bring it up that they will follow through with that. I realize that that's not right. I also think that as a mom and as people in general, we tend to hide our head and not think that nothing is really going on, and then we don't ask the questions. We also think that suicide is a terrible word. It's no different than cancer or things like that that cause people to commit suicide or to take their lives in suicide. I'm sorry. It's mental illness.
Yeah. Jon, can I ask you the same question? Stigmas, things that hold you back from where you stand?
You know, I think one of the things is people are uncomfortable with mental illness. That's something that no one wants to admit, but yet there's such a high rate of some mental illnesses in this country, and so people don't want to talk about those things, and it in turn makes it so that they don't get the help that's needed. And so as we start to talk about suicide and some of these harder subjects, I think we're able to get people to understand that everybody's got something, everybody's dealing with something, and it's okay to not be okay. We just need to be there for one another and to try to help each other out when it's needed.
I can tell your organization is doing some good stuff hearing you talk there. All right, we want to continue this hard conversation. We do want to continue to talk about some of these tough issues, and we do have to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, we're going to resume our In Focus discussion on suicide awareness and prevention. And thank you so much for staying with us for our second In Focus discussion tonight on suicide awareness and prevention. So before the break, we were joined by Jon and Tracy Gossett and Ed and Barbara Hansen of the Life's Worth Living Foundation. So we're going to pick up right now where we left off just before the commercial break. And we'll start with Jon. You say your foundation, you unveiled the first monument in the entire country on Veterans Day back in 2018, dedicated to solving the problem of veteran suicide. We haven't talked about that. If you wouldn't mind telling us more about that.
Yeah, so, you know, to break it down, we were involved in a thing up at the Capitol called Thank You for Your Service, and talked about veteran suicide. And one of the statistics that they discussed that night up at the Capitol is of our Vietnam veterans, we lost 58,220 to combat. But from the start of the Vietnam War to the current time, we have lost 170,000 of those Vietnam veterans to suicide. So like 3 to 1. And so we decided we were going to unveil the nation's first monument dedicated to solving the problem. And we have bronze tiles on the base, the 6-foot base, and they're resources that are local resources that maybe veterans and their families wouldn't even know about if it weren't for this statue. And it's in the Veterans Memorial Park in Tooele, Utah. We donated it to the city, and we hope it makes a difference.
Very cool. Okay, let's talk to Ed now. Ed, you just hosted the 5th annual longest suicide prevention walk in the country last week. So it's 100 miles from Tooele to Wendover. I'd love to know where this idea came from. What does the event aim to accomplish for everybody involved? And then probably community members see you as well. So talk about that.
So it was really Jon's idea when we started this, and he came to me. I have an auto repair shop, and he came to me and talked to me at the shop, and he was saying, I got the best idea. We should get everybody, and we should just walk to Wendover. And I says, we're going to kill some people. We're going to be walking down I-80. That's crazy. Well, with the logistics of it, and with the help of our law enforcement going down our local small roads, and then we figured out we could skip I-80 and go down the frontage road. So it really has worked out well to be able to make it happen and be safe and do it. But I got to tell you, I don't really like to give Jon lots of credit, but this is one of the best things our foundation does. I mean, it's amazing what it does for the people that go on it. The first year we went with just our board and our families, and it's continued on, and it's grown where over 100 people come on this, and it's a healing event. We go down and we walk, and sometimes we're alone as we're walking, and sometimes we're in groups, and as we leapfrog with each other, and we're on buses, and we're together, we share our stories and share what's happening in our life, and it helps us heal each other, and it makes us feel better, and be able to deal with what's happening in our life with our loss to suicide. And we also have those that are there that have contemplated suicide or have attempted suicide, and it's just healing for all of us. So it's a great event, and we have a lot of fun doing it also.
And Ed, we were talking in the break that Jon actually started this in honor of your son. Jon, I'd like to ask, as far as accomplishing things, we know that organizations need money, and the money can help folks. So how do you raise money? How much have you raised since the inception, and then what does this go toward?
Well, those are kind of hard questions. So in 2014, we started this. None of us really knew what to do with a nonprofit, and we started to get businesses within our community to stand behind us, and we were able to raise a little bit of money the first year. It's kind of grown each year. We do these, like the Walk to Wendover, we do a Christmas festival, we do a golf tournament. And doing those things, it's been able to give us the money. We're all volunteers, so none of us make a dime, but what it allows us to do is to run this program. We give trainings all over the state in suicide prevention. We're trainers in we're going to be in 4 different suicide prevention trainings, and we offer those at no cost to businesses, churches, and schools. We help pay for burial costs when needed with people in Tooele County. We help with counseling. We give scholarships to high school seniors that may have lost, a mother or father or someone to suicide, and make sure that they still can get their education. So every dime that we raise goes directly to the cause, and I think that's probably the biggest impact you can have when it's not going to pay salaries of people. It's going to the cause.
And just seeing you here, I can tell that you're fulfilled by this work. I remember the Texas freeze and all the crazy weather down there. There was this guy who opened up a shop, and he said, the purpose of living is giving. And I can see that it brings you a lot of purpose. Tracy, we haven't heard from you. Could you share what you've learned from your experience and participating in this walk?
I've learned that there's so many people that suicide affects. We had over 100 people this year walk, and it's affected all of those people. And I've made so many great friends and learned that I could do hard things, because it is hard to walk to Wendover, and it's taught me a lot of things about myself, and I'm so grateful for all the friendships I've gained from this walk.
Absolutely. I can imagine all kinds of conversations along the way. And Barb, I can't even imagine, the pain of losing your son to suicide. How has the event and the organization sort of helped you and family members, and what have you seen as far as everybody's sort of change in mood afterwards?
I love my son more than anything in the world, and I miss him every single day of my life. But being able to get together and talk and realize that everything's okay, that my boy is okay, that it helps to be able to walk with his children on the walk, and for them to feel close to their dad. It just heals you. It's a healing process. And we have a group that we meet together with monthly, and we all sit around and we know we're in a safe space, that we're not going to tell anybody outside that room what's going on, but we talk, and we can share with each other our feelings. And I'm a talker. I need to talk. So I'm so grateful for Jon and Tracy and for doing this for us.
And as a talker, I'm sure you love to talk, and that's very helpful, and you just said that. And I'm a talker as well, so sometimes my mouth moves before I think. Okay, everybody hold tight. We really appreciate all your thoughts. We have another quick commercial break, but really important discussion coming up on suicide awareness and prevention. And welcome back to our third and final In Focus discussion tonight. It's on suicide awareness and prevention, and before the break, we were joined by Jon and Tracy Gossett and Ed and Barbara Hansen of the Life's Worth Living Foundation. So let's pick up right now where we left off. And Ed, you lost your son to suicide. What are some of the things family members and friends should look for when it comes to suicide prevention and awareness? Perhaps like red flags, warning signs. And Ed?
Yeah. So the biggest thing you need to do is watch for change in what's happening with them. Some people are talkers, or some people are quiet or thing, but you look for something different happening, because somebody that's normally quiet, they could be out active and outgoing and doing something different. Or somebody that's a talker that's always out doing things is doing the opposite, where they're just sitting and they're becoming more reclusive. And just a change in any way of like that, you recognize it. And then as you watch for them things, you just not be scared to talk to them about it and ask the questions and ask, are you okay? You know, are you contemplating suicide, or is there anything I can do to help? And just be really verbal about it and watch for them things, because you know, when our son was going through this, he would say things once in a while that I just shouldn't be here anymore, or you know, you guys would all be better off without me, or things like that. And as you listen to them, you know, we would just say, oh, you're okay. You know, it's you're not going to do. You know, you're okay. We need you here. You'll be okay. But you need to take comments like that and things like that seriously as they say that, and then ask the questions. Ask the hard questions. Don't be scared to do that.
I imagine there's a lot of discerning that goes on, but those are very clear words that if somebody hears those, they can at least understand that maybe that person is contemplating suicide. So Barb, can I ask you, if someone is contemplating this, if they're saying some of these words, what would your advice be?
My biggest advice would be to take it seriously. I was the mom that wanted to just hide it all and pretend that everything was okay, that we were wonderful, it was just a moment, but we need to really, I've learned, we need to stop and listen, and really listen with both our ears and our heart, and to ask. There's nothing wrong with asking, are you considering taking your life? Or be aware and let them know that you're aware that there's something wrong, and just be there for them. Like I said, I tended to just hide from it and pretend everything was happy and fine, and you don't do that.
So you hear someone saying these words, you ask them these questions. Jon, tell us about the podcast you host called Life's Worth Living. What can somebody do? What's that next step? And what do you talk about on the show as far as guests who kind of help people navigate what's an incredibly difficult situation in their lives, trying to reach out to somebody who's in so much pain?
Yeah, you know, 2020 kind of threw a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. And so in March of 2020, going into COVID, I thought, what are we going to be able to do during a pandemic to still have an impact on people, because all of our events, like the Walk to Wendover, were canceled. And so we started a podcast, Life's Worth Living, and we bring people on to talk about some of the areas that might cause someone to contemplate suicide, like mental illness, addiction, bullying, the LGBTQ community. We bring people in that can tell their stories, and it's an hour-long weekly podcast, and we just interview some amazing people and find out what got them through. And you know, it's been really inspirational. I get more out of it than anybody, because I get to meet these people and find out, you know, what makes them tick, what got them through the hard times. And it's really grown and become popular, and it's on all the platforms that you can download your podcast on, and it's been a good experience.
Well, Jon, everybody knows, right? You may not have the audience of broadcast television, but on a podcast, it's such an intimate audience that when they actually download or press play, they hear everything you're saying. Okay, Tracy, if people want to know more information, or if they want to donate, where can they find you?
We're on all the social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can go to Venmo at Life's Worth Living, to Venmo.
And help you out. Jon, final words, what would you like our viewers to know tonight?
Well, I guess it's important to talk about this. You know, the thing that we hear from families all over the place is, I never thought it would happen in my family. And like Barb said, don't have your head in the sand. Be aware. Let's look out for one another. Let's listen to what's being said. People will get placed in your path, people that need to be in your path, but we have to be alert. We have to know how to ask the question. And a simple way to do that, I think, to kind of button this up, is to just say, hey, I noticed you today, and sometimes when people are going through, and whatever that is, say that, when people are going through X, they might be thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide? And if that answer is yes, we find out if they have a plan. If they have a plan, we need to stay with that person and get them the help that they need immediately. But we're losing far too many people to suicide. And if we're aware and we're all on this same track of doing the best we can, we will save lives. And so that's what's important to all of us, and that's why we do what we do.
Jon and Tracy Gossett, you're doing amazing work. Ed and Barbara Hansen with the Life's Worth Living Foundation. Thank you all for being here tonight to share what you're doing to continue the conversation around suicide awareness and prevention.
Thank you.
Thank you.